Yom Tov! It's time for Stephen Brock, that's me, to present you know who you are, a Messianic moment. But first, let's do the admin. Please, if you haven't done so, go to the right side, subscribe. If you're on the video, in the lower right-hand corner or the upper left-hand corner, you can click on the Messianic moment icon, subscribe there. But please, go back to the website and subscribe there too, because I don't always do a video, and you certainly want to know when I post something. Oh, hey, you should miss something. That's funny. I appreciate your being here. I really do. I love comments. Send me questions. Anything that I can help you with, I'll try. I'm not an expert, but yeah, it's always good to hear somebody else's opinion. You never know. In any event, let's get into today's message. In the Gospel of Luke, specifically chapter 12, verse 26, we are told that Yeshua the Messiah says, if we wish to be the greatest, we must be the last. In order to be in charge, we must first learn how to serve. Now, the world tells us quite the opposite. It says you should first and foremost take care of Numero Uno, number one. And that once you have seen to your own needs and desires, then you can do something for someone else. But you really don't have to. And that's because they're supposed to be taking care of their Numero Uno themselves as well. Yet, even though the world says take care of Numero Uno, and the Bible tells us we should serve others, the Torah teaches us that when we ask for forgiveness of sins, we cannot start with others. We must take care of Numero Uno before we can attend to the rest, starting with the Kohen HaGadol, the high priest, and going down the ladder of authority to the elders and community leaders. Each person must first atone for their own sins before they can come to God to intercede for someone else. I found this to be an interesting thought the other day. I was reading the beginning of Leviticus. Even though the religious and community leaders have an obligation to care for their flock, when it comes to one of the most important things we can do for others, which is interceding for them, we have to see to ourselves first. Once we have taken care of our own need to be forgiven, then and only then can we ask forgiveness for those who we are in charge of. By the way, just take a break here. I know that no one can forgive someone else's sins, and to be forgiven, each person must ask that of God individually. But I'm assuming that any intercession, whether it's in biblical days or today, is similar to the one made for the sin by the Kohen HaGadol. So, now we see this also in the teaching of Yeshua in Matthew 5:24, where he said that we are not to bring an offering to God until after we have taken care of our own issue with someone else. Meaning that before we come into the presence of the Almighty, we must be as clean as we can be. And that doesn't mean just physically washing or ceremonially clean. It also means spiritually clean. Just about everything Yeshua taught was on the level of the Remez, which is the spiritual truth underlying the written word, which is called the Peshat in the Torah. He is repeating what God told us in the Torah. Take care of our own sins before we come to God for someone else. By the way, if you're not familiar with the terms Remez or Peshat or the Jewish exegesis system called Pardes, go back to the website on this blog, and I have a link on those two words that will take you to a nice Wikipedia explanation of it. So, in Leviticus, the high priest is to atone for his sins before he atones for the people. And Yeshua tells us that if we have an issue, same thing, someone repented sin with someone else, and we know that any sin is first and foremost a sin against God, we must first atone for that sin. In other words, be cleansed of it before we come to God. Another example is when Yeshua tells us to first remove the log from our own eye before we tell a brother or a sister about the log in their eye. You'll find that in Matthew 7:5. One of the most difficult spiritual positions I can think of is the one of being an intercessor. It requires the gifts of compassion, empathy, and patience, none of which I have in abundance. And because of the requirement to be sinless before interceding for others, well, can you see now why I think it is such an awesome burden to have? To intercede for others, we must first take care of Numero Uno. We have to make sure we have interceded for ourselves. Only after we are clean physically, ceremonially, and spiritually, can we then ask God to help others? I suppose it kind of makes sense when we consider that we who have been accepted by Yeshua and have accepted Yeshua as our Messiah, when we are seen by God through His righteousness, we are seen through His cleanliness when He intercedes on our behalf. Likewise, when we intercede for others, we must also first be clean before the Lord so that He will see them through our cleanliness. I pray every day for forgiveness, not just because I know I'm probably sinning, but because I don't always know when I am sinning. I find it much more comforting to do this because I accept that I am a sinner and born with iniquity. And despite how hard I try, I will never be free of what I am, a sinner who wants to sin, at least not in this lifetime. By always asking for forgiveness, I know I am covering any and all sins I have or may have committed before the Lord. Remember how Shaul, Paul, that nice little tent maker from Tarsus, how he confessed in Romans 7, verses 15 through 20, that he is a wretch. He does what he doesn't want to do and doesn't do that which he wants to do. This is Shaul, saying these things. And that's why I accept my sinfulness and pray every day for forgiveness, because he did. And believe you me, I am certainly not better than him. So let's put today's message to rest with this conclusion. When someone tells you to take care of Numero Uno, you tell them that you do by interceding for others only after you have first asked for your own forgiveness. That's how to take care of Numero Uno correctly. Then tell them that in all other matters we are to be a servant of the Lord and a servant to others. Amen. Thank you again for being here. Again, I appreciate your comments. Make them here on the website. Send me an IM. Make it on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to both. And please, when you make comments, I always ask, just whatever they are, just be nice. So have a blessed day. V'hitrot v'baruch Hashem.